Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to A Girl in Love with Tech podcast. My name is Rachel Rabo. I'm a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, a Power Platform developer, a Dynamics 365 CE developer. And today, on this episode, we are going to be talking about Microsoft adoption for students. And our special guest for today is Chino Ikwuegbu. I got the name. Who is going to be discussing about the benefits of Microsoft Azure. We're going to be discussing the project she built with Azure services and also talking about how you can apply for Microsoft Azure for students. Hi, Chino.
Hi, Rachel.
Thank you very much for accepting my invite.
Thank you for sending it out.
Yeah. Okay. So, if you can introduce yourself so that we can know more about you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So, I'm Chino Ikwuegbu. I'm a Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, and I'm currently studying electronics and computer at the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. Thank
That's
you.
amazing. Yeah. Thank you very much. And what career path in tech are you currently going for?
Um, I'm not so sure. For now, I'm just going to stick with front end.
And that's nice. Me, I'm still in between. So everybody is looking for what to do right now. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Okay. So before we go ahead to talk about your project and also how to apply for Microsoft Azure for students, what is Microsoft Azure in your opinion?
Okay, so Microsoft Azure is a platform that is used for cloud computing, which offers cloud computing services over the internet. And as the name implies, Microsoft Azure. So the Azure is owned by Microsoft. So that's all
Yeah.
about Microsoft Azure.
Yeah, there's so many areas in Microsoft Azure. I recently started reading about Microsoft Azure fundamentals, where there was so much learning parts on cloud computing, because there's a lot of confusion in that area. When people hear about Microsoft Azure, and they are thinking, okay, what is Microsoft Azure? And I'm hearing Microsoft Azure in so many areas in tech or so many areas in different platforms. So how does this come in? So there's also one question I want to ask for the benefits of students. What is Microsoft Azure for students?
Okay, so Microsoft Azure for Students, Student Benefit, is a program that offers Azure services, up to 25 Azure services. You have your GitHub Student Pack, and then you
Yeah,
have tools and resources and lab. So these things, getting this benefit will give you a free access to Microsoft Azure. So you're not going to pay for anything, you're getting it free as far as you're in an accredited university. So
yeah,
that is Microsoft Student Benefit.
yeah. There's also one thing to notice is that about Microsoft Azure, if you cannot access it directly, you can apply for GitHub Student Developer Pack, like you said. You can
Yes.
apply for GitHub Student Developer Pack and actually access Microsoft Azure, especially if you have maybe your school is not registered. Your school is
Yes,
not
that's
registered. Yeah, so you can use GitHub Student Developer Pack to apply for Microsoft Azure for students. And it has so many benefits. A lot of students, when they are trying to learn, like they're trying to learn about a platform, they're thinking about, okay, I
mm,
don't have the money based on I'm a student. I don't have the money to pay for this particular technology to learn it. So
yes.
Microsoft has made it possible for you as a student to apply for Microsoft Azure. So yeah,
Free.
yeah, so I want to ask, like, as a Microsoft student ambassador, apart from being a student, you also have access to Microsoft Azure. So, what has your experience been like?
It has been fine and nice at the same time. So I've learned how to deploy virtual machines with
Yeah,
um with Azure, and then I've learned how to use the translator service, which is in the cognitive services, Azure Cognitive Service, and I've
yeah,
equally used the custom vision as well. So I
that's
think
amazing.
I think it has been a lot, and I'm still going forward. Learning never stops.
Yeah, there's also something I love about the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program. When you join, you get to go through the technical onboarding that allows you use the static web app. Yeah, so you get to explore
Yes.
Microsoft Azure too. So it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is very
yeah,
so much nice.
yeah. It is. So yeah, exploring a lot. I think I have used. Azure Cognitive Services. I have also used Azure DevOps and all these
Wow.
things. Yeah, Azure DevOps. I've used okay. I've used Azure AD. I've used I think some others from the
Mm.
years now. I've used others too. And what made this possible is because of being a student. I
Yes,
got
student
access to those
ambassador.
things. So I'm trying to let our listeners know that you are a student. Why not gain from these benefits? I think there's a what they say is that when you are not aware of things, you don't actually know how to access them. But
Okay.
now you are listening and you are aware. So take hold of these benefits. Take hold of applying for GitHub Student Developer Pack and also
Mhm.
Microsoft Azure for Students and benefit from them. If you are thinking about, okay, how can I get started with Microsoft Azure? So, hi, Chino, how can they get started with Microsoft Azure?
Okay, so you just go to Microsoft Azure on the internet, then you sign up using your institutional email. So every school now gives a student an email address. So you just take that email and then put it there, and then you get verified. So
Yeah.
once you're verified, you can use the Azure credits for your Azure.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. And even learning, you can also check on Microsoft Learn. There's so many resources online. You can start with the fundamentals because there's nothing like when you know the basics of a tool or a
Mhm.
platform. You have to know the basics first before you progress. So Microsoft Learn is a perfect place. YouTube, and there are so many blogs online. There are so many people in the Azure community that are writing about Microsoft Azure and how to use the different services. Yeah. So the next thing I want to talk about is being a student. You are a student and you are using Microsoft Azure. I think there's one thing that people get confused a lot, and I think I was one of them too. I was thinking about, okay, I was learning Power Platform. When I started
Okay.
learning Power Platform, I was thinking, how can I build projects? What projects? Okay, I have learned how to do this. I have learned how to do that. How can I apply this? How can I build a project? What project should I build? And I love that you are using so many resources on Microsoft Azure. You are building, you are learning, because there's nothing like when you are learning and building at the same time. It's really amazing. So there's one thing I want to ask as a student, how can one get ideas to work on their learning, to build projects?
Okay, for starters, the first thing you need to do is to build the simplest project. And on Microsoft Learn, there are labs and there are little bit projects you can build. So after you're done building that, your foundation is quite strong, then you can go or maybe use the internet and search for projects you can build. And then you made mention of looking for problems around the environment. That too
Yeah,
can help. So I think internet a lot, and now we have ChatGPT, so you can just ask
yeah,
it projects, simple
yeah,
project, beginners project, and then you have a project there to build.
yeah. And even one thing too, like maybe you're in a new environment and you speak maybe the language they speak there, you do not understand it. You can actually use Azure to actually help with a
Yeah.
translator app to help translate what the people around you are speaking in order to understand it in your own language. Yeah. And I think that's what you did on your project. So to talk about your project that you built, so how did you get an idea to actually work on that project?
So I think the first person was Salim. Salim is a student ambassador too. He built
Yeah.
something on web app, and I was like, no, I'm not going into Azure AI. I don't want to have anything doing with Azure AI. But then there was a program in a Microsoft. There was a program. It had I think a bug bash. Yes, so I
Okay.
saw it and I was like, okay, let me try it out and see how it works. Like, how does this thing? Let me use
Yeah.
APIs and how does it work? So that's what I did, and I just built it. I'm looking forward to building more.
Yeah. When you start, you can't like when you start, you get more interested. Yeah.
Backward never.
Backward never. Yeah. And okay, to talk about your project. So what is your project about?
Okay, so mine, the name is Translate by Chi. I just like the name, Translate by Chi.
Yeah,
So
your
it's
name.
powered by Azure Translate Service, which is a cognitive service. So I
Okay.
built it with Flask framework, Flask
Okay.
and Python. Then for the front end, I just used HTML, CSS, and then Bootstrap. So
Yeah,
this
that's
project
amazing.
you can just you can type how are you in English and convert to up to 15 different languages right
Are
there,
you
right
serious?
now.
That's amazing, Chino. That's amazing. Nice project.
Because of the power of AI, because Microsoft
Yeah,
has done that for us, so we don't need to be training data over and over again. We
yeah,
just
that's
have
really, really amazing. 15 languages. Are you serious? That's amazing.
counted it,
Wow.
and much more is still coming on because I know Bethany has been talking about they are training much more language. Because I was thinking, if you look at the language, you will not see Igbo, you will not see Hausa yet, just
Yeah,
normal
yeah,
this international language. But hopefully,
yeah.
ours will be added soon.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you think about? Are you going to work more on that project in the future, or do you think you have worked enough
I
on
was
this
thinking of
particular
adding
project?
voice. I was thinking
You
of
said
adding voice, like
voice.
voice. So once it translates, it can read it,
Yeah,
or maybe you can equally use your speech and then ask it to translate it for you. I think that
yeah,
one
that's
too
yeah, that's a
can work.
very, very good idea. And I think you can also. I've seen a lot of projects. You can also bring it into Power Platform. Yeah, you
How
can
will I
try.
do that?
You said
How will I do that?
I don't have any idea now, but I think a lot of people in the community are doing so much on Power Platform and even using Azure. So I think it's possible to bring all what you have done on Azure services and bring it into Power Platform.
No, nothing.
And it's going to be amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. There's one thing I want to also talk about is that how do your learning journey on Azure? How has it been?
It has been nice with Microsoft's Learn. I think Microsoft's Learn. I think I'm going to rank Microsoft's Learn higher than other resources I've used like Coursera, Udemy. Microsoft Learn is
Yeah.
just the boss there with the labs
Yeah.
and the documentation. Documentation is so good in Microsoft Learn, so it has been fine.
Yeah.
Maybe I think I'm looking at taking AI data, Azure AI. Before I've been running away from it, but it's looking interesting. Maybe after Azure AI data.
It's nice. I love how Azure is so into different places. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, Another question I want to ask you is that what advice would you give to people who are trying to learn Azure or people who are scared, like the way you were from the beginning, who are scared about learning Azure? What advice would you give to them?
One step at a time.
You said one step at a time, right?
One step at a time. Yes, that fear is okay, but it's not worth it. You
Yeah, to
shouldn't be
be afraid.
scared. You don't just enter just one step at a time, pickle by pickle, little by little.
Yeah, and there's so many areas to explore in Azure if you are a data analyst. Where whichever part you are in, there's so many areas you can explore on Azure. Yeah, so it's really amazing. Yep.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, hi everyone. If you are listening to this podcast and you built a project on Microsoft Azure, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Rachel Rabo on LinkedIn, and my name is Richie for Love on Twitter. Yeah. And if you have any questions to ask Chino about her project on the process she took, the step-by-step process she took to build her project, you can reach out to her on LinkedIn. Chino Ikwuegbu. Sorry for spelling your name. Yeah, you can reach out to her on LinkedIn. And what's your name on Twitter? I think Sibeta.
CBE hyphen ATA underscore ATA.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll
I
change
love
it.
your handle name on Twitter. Yeah. Okay. So hi everyone. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast and see you in the next podcast. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.